I've learned a lot about what it takes to survive off the land over the short amount of time I've tasked my mind to the subject. In Season 1 of our Wilderness Living Challenge, we employed tactics taught by us by people who had never actually made a living from wild food sources. We figured that pike, and lots of them, would be enough to keep us from losing weight, but we were wrong. One of our key mistakes was filleting fish and discarding the skin, something taught to us as a matter of course. We were told that skins were slimy and gave the fish a bad taste, and that toxins concentrate in them. We were told they weren't good for us to eat. Deep frying lean meat in vegetable oil was the norm for us growing up. While we understood the principle of lean meat poisoning or rabbit starvation, it wasn't something we knew about through experience, so it didn't really matter until it did. This turned into a major problem for us when we tried to live on just fish without any oil or batter to pair it with. Then when fish head soup, a good source of fat, turned out to be quite unpalatable, the natural conclusion ensued. We slowly began to starve. Season 2 had us change course completely. We opened up even more doors and practically ignored fish altogether. Instead, we focused on animals and the fat they contain. Fat that is in the skin, around the organs, and in the brain. We also used just more than 10 tools, par for the show. For this, maybe I don't belong on alone, but maybe it's because I get it. Instead of messing around with just 10 basic survival items, we decided to use exactly the tools we figured we'd need to thrive in today's wilderness. That meant traps, and lots of them. We used body grip traps to take beaver, live cage traps to take groundhog, and used guns to take snowshoe hare. We combined this with modern fishing gear and a canoe to bring us even closer to where fish live, away from the shore. When appropriate, we scavenged and took a bear. Our fortune gave us a dead bear roadside, and, like our ancestors, we weren't about to turn away from a free meal. Instead, we took it. Our skills at cleaning wild game and turning them into food were real assets. Preparedness matched with opportunity. In the wild, food is scarce. Natural spaces are limited and broken by miles of development. What used to be in great abundance in our past is no longer plentiful, certainly not all in one place. For us, when resources were depleted, we moved. We didn't lay down and starve as we've seen on the show. That simply isn't an interesting way to spend the limited amount of time we have on this planet. Humans weren't meant to starve. We were designed to thrive. Once we turned to modern gear, the food on our plates grew and we prospered. There was no end to the meals we were able to put together, and our bellies grew full and our spirits remained high and positive. There were so many possibilities around us that were completely off the menu without the right tools for the job. Using fishing rods, guns, traps, and bows, coupled with tents and sleeping bags, meant that we could focus our efforts on the most productive ways. We learned the tricks of our ancestors to procure what was available and evolved from just eating the muscle or meat of an animal to the skin, bone marrow, tongue, gut, eyes, stomach, even the brain. We learned that all parts of the animal provided nutrition, and this helped us stay healthy and strong. When it comes to wild edibles, we learned just how scarce and energy intensive they are to collect and prepare. Most are simply not palatable, and the ones that are often highly seasonal. We found that wild foods are rarely found in wild places, preferring the disturbed soils created by modern man. So if we wanted to eat, we needed to stay close to cities and the edges that have been created by them. The use of modern gear isn't out of laziness or lack of ingenuity. It was calculated, practical. It was smart. It was what was needed to put food on the table. I understand the nostalgia of living a simple life and returning to historical primitive hunter-gatherer existence. But it is not easy given our broken natural resources. Our land still contains much to eat, but these are displaced by factory farms, pasture, cash crops, and cities. Maybe it's better for ratings to choose someone for the show who really believes they would thrive, watch them falter, and be entertained by their folly. I believe that living off the land is possible, but also very challenging, especially so with just a handful of modern tools. However, maybe the fact that I get this means that I have an advantage over someone else who may be naive to the facts. There's only one way to find out, and that's to cast me for the show and see what comes of it. As one of the most qualified candidates to have never been cast, I hereby present myself, once again, for the show alone. Skunk brain. A little bit of brain matter. Like the brains. Got a lot of meat here, Jer.
Uh-huh.
It's like a meat market. Oh, we already did that.
We already used that line.
Who's stoking the smoke fire overnight?
I'm gonna try.
Yeah?
Yeah, maybe we can pick a pile of alder before it gets real dark.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna hang this neck up to keep warm in the smokehouse here.
The beaver's sizzling. That's a good sign.